Mhm.
That's what America wants. Nice and calm. You almost there.
Yeah, I did it. I cried 2 tears in a bucket. Fuck it. Let's take it to the stage.
You dig it? You knock a dude down, you get some respect.
Hey, hey. Well, you know what? I guess the new intro is a little bit better than the other one. I like it. It's nice and short, sweet. Um, hey, good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. You see the title of the show. BMU took a little creative license because I was trying to do a little uh, thing off the movie long time ago called uh, Big Trouble in Little China, I believe it was. So I had Big Trouble in Little Mogadishu. I'm not going to necessarily be talking about the raids and stuff like that, but I do have a daisy chain of conversation that leads from us kind of understanding where we stand in terms of Americans and immigration policy, both legal and illegal, and how the problem with Little Mogadishu hurts all of the immigration for all of people trying to come here. Um, because they're not really doing everything. There's so much that's so unique that a lot of other groups haven't done, except that it's become clear that the folks from Little Mogadishu, Somalia, don't appreciate being Americans at all. And I think that's a problem, and it's going to come back to bite them. And so, but let's talk about the whole thing. So I just want to start from there. Just wanted to give you a little bit. So just come in, get the cobwebs out of being at work. Welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. And I'm gonna drop the link, and I got a few things. I got clips, and that's what I use a lot. But if anybody up here and wants to debate or have a sore spot for the Somalis or a sore spot for immigrants at all, or think that America is going down a path that can destroy our way of life because of the way our immigration policy is set up and the kind of people that we allow in, and we don't ask ourselves the questions: what's our benefit from letting all these people in this country? What benefit do they have to us? Not what we can do for them. We know what we could do for them. We're Americans, goddammit. This is the best country on the face of the earth. And I know people try to say we're not, but nobody's really running to anybody else, but they're running here. So what kind of people should we take in? Should it be all just bleeding heart shit, or should we have people who could benefit us right away? So I don't want to just say let's beat up the Somalians. No, I think that we need to put them in context with every other immigrant group that comes to the United States of America. It's just their turn in front of the congregation. You know what I'm saying? It's just their turn. And one of the things about us as Americans, we need to understand that I call ourselves, American descendants of slaves. I'm trying to get away from calling us Black. We're fundamental. We're American descendants of slaves, and we're citizens of the United States. And I think we don't really process what it means to be a citizen of this country. That automatically puts us in an elevated position as citizens. And sometimes we don't respect that. Well, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we don't respect that enough, Yeah, I saw that. I heard about that. That's fine. And you know what? More power to her. As long as she's running with the competition, if she wins, then the Americans have spoken. If she loses, she'll find something else to do. That's just the way politics is. I just hope, me personally, that the country never gets turned back over to these raging liberals, black or white. The liberals are destructive because of the way they think and the way they vote. And I'm not just saying black liberals, white liberal women are the most dangerous people on the face of the United States. So just because of the way they vote, it's absolutely destructive. And we're going to see some more of that. And what's worse than them is the sycophantic men who follow them. So that's another part of it. So I want to just kind of go down this daisy chain, and we're going to get to the Somalians and Ilhan Omar, Ilhan Omar. And we'll get to her too at the end a little bit. But I have some clips of a lot of people who want to talk. But first, let's just kind of say some questions to ourselves as Americans, about, what we think about what's really going on here. Okay, so I had some questions that I want to just ask. All right, listen. So how do we view immigration? Because we look at immigration as Americans through many different lenses, all of us, and I would say therein lies the problem. We are not monolithic in the way we look at immigration, legal immigration or illegal immigration, okay? And we haven't come to grips with how we look at that, So is it immigration of the heart where, that guides our openness to people coming here from the world? Or is it the law of the land that governs immigration? Well, the truth of the matter is, it should be the law of the land that governs how we people immigrate to this country legally, and what we should do with the folks who get here illegally. And it doesn't matter whether they committed some kind of federal murderous crime or not. If I catch you in this country and your papers are out of compliance, every single law in the federal statute says you're subject to deportation. And there's no statute of limitations on that, by the way. You could be here for 30 freaking years. You could have a whole family of nice little saplings and all that kind of stuff. But if you're out of compliance, you may be shit out of luck and deported. Now, that's where the heartstrings come from, right? Because that person has taken root in the country. And that person might not have committed any other crime other than being in this country illegal. So we got a lot of issues like that that's going on right now. And President Trump and his administration has peeled the Band-Aid off of that damn scab. Do you know what I'm saying? And the biggest mistake that they made is that they didn't say what I just said. They came out and said, we're looking for the worst of the worst and all this horse shit, when they really should have told the truth. They should have just came out and told the truth. If you're here and you're out of compliance with our law, you're subject to deportation, and it doesn't matter who you are. Now, politically, that's harder to sell because we got a lot of people who live from the heartstrings, right? That kind of makes sense. But that is the law. And so when they mixed it up and they started telling the media that we're only looking for killers and criminals and shit like that, well, that is true, but that's not the whole truth. And they put themselves in a bind by not telling the whole truth from the beginning. And I don't know if you guys are with me or not, but that's the reason that we have a lot of consternation, because they didn't tell the whole truth. Yes. There you go. That's another thing. And we could get to that, because I am going to touch upon allegiance and those kind of things that are really, really important that if you want to be an American citizen, I think we lost track of that too, in terms of who should be here and who shouldn't be. You know, that's another problem that we have. So let me ask a question just in general, you know, is it our obligation as Americans to save the world? Or is it our obligation as Americans for what we have built in this country to save the world from all that heartache? You know, who said that that shit was supposed to be true? You know? I'm just asking. I mean, you know, it's not up to us to do that. And, you know, and I'm purposely saying us as Americans, and I'm not putting any race in it, right? Because there's enough of us who are Black, who are descendants of slaves or adjacent, who've been under Jim Crow and lynching and redlining and stuff like that in this country, and fought in every war from the beginning, from the Civil War to now. Even the war for independence, there were Black people fighting in that, and didn't get their freedom even after that war was over, by the way. So this country is as much as ours as it is anybody else, white man and anybody else, if not more, right? Because we contributed for free for years. So, you know, should we be like bleeding heart, like anybody? Bring me your poor and destitute, and then we'll bring them here, and then we'll put them on welfare and take our tax dollars and be disenfranchised in our own communities to put up people who haven't shed one iota of blood for this country. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's where we are. You know, so that's where we are. And we're at a crossroads right now, because now this shit's front and center, where we have to make decisions on what kind of country we're going to be, you know? All right, so listen. So again, I asked what the benefit is. You know, let's keep going further. If you came over here legally as an American, as a person who wanted to be American, do you owe this country your allegiance, your loyalty, and your allegiance for being an American? I'm asking that question to you guys out there. If you're hearing me, do you think a person who immigrates over here, gets a green card, goes through the process, do they owe our country allegiance? Do they owe our country loyalty? You goddamn right they do. They do. That's why we should probably get rid of dual citizenship. And you know, that doesn't only go for people from Mogadishu. That goes for people for Israel as well, or any other place. If you come to America and you want to be an American citizen, you should pledge allegiance to the United States of America. You can have some of your old customs or that, but your allegiance should be to this country, period. That's how I feel about it. And the reason why that's true is because some of these people with dual allegiance are in the highest levels of government. You know, why do we want to have people who make laws and can change lives who don't have full allegiance to the United States? You know, and you know, so we know about the little hats, right? But you know, Ilhan Omar is one of those people. She hates this country. She absolutely loathes and holds Americans in contempt. Not because I'm saying it, just listen to some of her speeches, especially when she's speaking Somalian. You know, so, and we'll get to her in a minute. So I'm just saying, if you're going to be here, you got to have some allegiance to this country. You know, shit. Now, okay. So Somalians are not the only immigrant group who creates enclaves, who created an enclave when they got here, right? The Italians did it. The Germans did it. The Irish have done it. The Russians have done it. The Jamaicans have done it. The Spanish, the Puerto Ricans have done it. The Cubans have done it. Everybody has done that. Okay. So let's not say just creating your conclaves to be around people that you're used to, you could talk to is something. The Chinese have done it. But what's the big difference that we hear now? It's not the color of their skin. Not really. It's because that now that it's come out that there's enough evidence that they hold America in contempt. They think that we're less than they are, right? I mean, it's not all of them, but it's enough to say, you know what, they found a golden goose. And so let's just rob them blind and let's send the money back to Mogadishu and Somalia. And let's not pledge allegiance to the United States of America. Let's just do everything that we do. We'll get our lives together. We'll build our fortunes. And all of that stuff is to prop up a country that we didn't want to live in, which is Somalia, which wasn't conducive for a life. But America is. And one of the only reasons why they could exist the way they do is because of liberals who are looking for people who they want to have their constituents, new constituents, to vote for them. And that's why when Biden opened up the borders and let millions of people run in here, that was the coup that the Democrats and the liberals were trying to project on the United States to build a new voting bloc with your tax-paying money to put them up, give them housing, give them food, give them education, and put them in your neighborhoods by repurposing buildings in your neighborhoods. And what they did was use a whole bunch of black-faced coons to do it. Mayor Brandon Johnson, Karen Bass, the chick down in New Orleans, it seems like the mayor of Charlotte. And we'll get back to the black faces that allowed immigrants to take over the black communities. And with your money, slapping you in the face while they go. Dig that. And we sit back and we vote for those same liberals every 4 years and at the local level, right? They put the criminals back in the neighborhood. And then so I'm just going through this whole scenario that immigration, illegal and mass immigration is detrimental to the United States. It really is. Now, let me posit this to you, right? There'll be people who say, you know what, the original people, we're a country of immigrants, right? And it's true. But immigration has a cost, right? When new people come to a new land, there's a cost to that. Right. So if we say the original settlers of this country, when I say original, from Europe, we're not going all the way back 3,000, 4,000 years ago when people talk all this shit out. I'm just talking about when the Europeans came here. They could be considered immigrants, right? They were colonists, but they were immigrants. They were looking for a better life. Okay. They got together in this country. And what happened? What happened? Sometimes they fought amongst each other, but they coalesced with each other to exterminate the Indians. They called it manifest destiny. So immigration had a cost for the indigenous people here. It wiped them out. Now they got casinos and they got desert, arid land to live on for those of them that's still around. So that's what that early immigration did. So immigration had to be controlled, right? Because then we started saying we just can't let people just flood the country because we have to have some kind of semblance of a nation, right? So part of what made us a nation was, one, we believed in a constitution. Two, we believed in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We believe that the borders and our constitution and our laws govern the way we lived. And if you wanted to become part of that diaspora, you had to become an American citizen. You had to socialize. You had to assimilate is the real world. You had to assimilate into society. That's what the illegal immigrants had to do. And the reason why assimilation only works if you control the amount of people you're trying to assimilate at a time, right? You could assimilate maybe 1 million or 2 in the country over a 10-year period. And that's why the process is so long and arduous, right? There'll be like 20 million people applying for a green card, but only 1 million people will get one. And then when those people get a green card, you can go ahead and look it up and follow the process. They have to establish residency. They're supposed to learn English. There's some other things in there they must do. And then they have to take a test to become naturalized. And that's like almost a 10-year window. They might fast track some people here and there, but it's a long window because that window is necessarily long for those people to assimilate to the American way of life, capitalism. Understanding that whatever culture they come with here, they can keep that culture, but it as long as it doesn't override the overriding culture of the country, and that's true. So when we have illegal immigration, now we're starting to flood the system because now these people are not supposed to be here. So when we get 1 million, 10 million over the Biden administration, some people say 20 million. Okay, let's just say that's an exaggeration. We want, when they use hyperbole, I think it's high like that. But let's just say it's 10 million. Just take any look at the borders every single day, how crowded they were and who got in. One, there's no assimilation with that many illegal aliens coming in. There's absolutely no way you could assimilate. We don't even know who was here. Right? They're not documented. They're not on record. They're just Venezuelans running around in America. They're just Somalis running around in America. They're just whoever, Chinese running around in America doing who knows what. That's not good for the country. And some might be laying low and just getting their job, not doing any, and others are preying on American citizens. You know what I'm saying? And we have a major problem, and this is the Republicans' fault, by the way, or the problem with the Republicans, because there's absolutely no way by law that they shouldn't have fought tooth and nail when the Democrats try to create sanctuary states and cities. If we can take some podunk asshole liberal judge who could put an injunction on the executive branch, how come when the Democrats started declaring sanctuary cities, California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Maine, these places are sanctuary cities and states, how come we couldn't find a conservative judge to say, wait a minute, you can't do that shit. You can't automatically say these cities are sanctuaries and you don't have to listen to any federal laws. That shit should have been adjudicated by the Supreme Court, not just some assholes in these blue states. And the Republicans are sitting down here fat, dumb, and happy and didn't say shit about it. Now they're complaining, right? And that's where, so I'm an equal opportunity guy who says that, maybe they would have won in court. Maybe they would have lost in court. But from the best of my knowledge, they didn't challenge the sanctuary city bullshit or sanctuary state. And the reason why sanctuary cities and states have caused so much consternation with immigration is because their police force is not cooperating with the federal government. So if I get an illegal murderer, I'm not asking him if he's an illegal citizen, even though I know it. And when the feds come to get that guy from jail, the police at the local level are not cooperating. They're letting the guy back on the street in your black ass neighborhoods, around your black ass mother and your black ass sister and your white liberal daughters. They're letting them out. The blue state mayors are prohibiting their police force from getting criminals off the street because of their immigration status. And guess what? Every year, every other year, you assholes keep voting them back in. And if I bet you Brandon Johnson, if he doesn't get 0 votes when he tries to run for mayor again, you black asses need to, you deserve everything you get. There's no man who's a traitor to the race more than he is at this point. And he does it with a straight face. The man's going straight to hell. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying all this because there's a connection to why that is a good thing and it's a bad thing that we have this big issue with the Somalians, because it puts all of this immigration shit into full picture and in full view, right? Because we know we have an enclave of people, not all, but enough to make a difference, that hate America, that hate what we stand for, that hate our way of life, even though they were in a shithole in Africa, but they hate the way we live. And they say, hey, it's wide open. These people are not even minding the store. And so anything goes, because the politicians, they want our vote so bad, they'll let us pillage the country. You know what I'm saying? So here's another connection that we need, that's going to come full circle, full view, now that we have the big Somali problem, and really because we have a big immigration issue in general, the point of birthright citizenship is coming full circle, full thing. If Executive Order 14160, right, ending birthright citizenship. Now, the president, with his executive order, has no right to change the 14th Amendment or the interpretation of the 14th Amendment. But what he did with that order was challenge it. And now the Supreme Court has it. And they're supposed to go over arguments in the fall. And by summer, sometime before the midterms, they're going to decide whether birthright citizenship still exists here in America. And before I started opening, seeing what's really going on, I was a big advocate for birthright citizenship because I was naive. I believe that if you, from the oppression where you were, if you got to America and you had some kids here, those kids should be safe because America is a big sanctuary. I kind of misunderstood or didn't look at the nefarious side of doing that. Right? There's a nefarious side of doing that. It's planting seeds and to take root with American citizens and raise them to not love this country, to believe other than to believe and pledge allegiance to this country, and they're full-fledged Americans, right? So there's a whole bunch of Somalis, just like Ilhan Omar, that says, hey, we're Americans now. There's nothing you could do about it. And she's right. She's absolutely right. The ones who are here, there's nothing you could do about it. They're American citizens. And I believe that once you get naturalized, I don't think America could take that away. However, Ilhan Omar should be kicked out of Congress. She doesn't need to be deported, but she shouldn't have any reins of power in the United States. None. So, so as citizens, I just say that I think that birthright citizenship has come to an end. And it's going to be up to the Supreme Court And a lot of people don't realize that once again, the rest of the world is riding on the backs of black people, right? Free slaves, because the 14th Amendment was clearly put in place to give the descendants of slaves citizenship. They weren't talking about all these other fucking people from everywhere else. They were talking about American slaves giving us citizenship, but the way it was written, just like so many things in the Constitution, you could drive a truck through it. So in 1898, there was a court case, U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark, where the Chinese won a case for citizenship for a guy who was born to two immigrant Chinese people who weren't American citizens. And so from that point on, anybody just born here, no matter what, they became American citizens. So think about the incentive now, right? Think about the incentive it has for people from anywhere to just come here and drop a baby. You know, whether it's for the baby or it's whether another back way of becoming a citizen, because I have family here now. That's what a lot of people are doing. Just get here to drop a baby. Just get here to drop a baby. They'll take care of them. And like I said, I was against getting rid of the first birthright citizenship, but I'm not so sure I'm against it now. All I know is, and this is the one thing that was true, that Trump's executive order wasn't enough to make it happen. Right? This is something that has to be adjudicated in court, like Roe v. Wade, like some other big court cases. So it should be an interesting time in next year, because this case is going to be talked about. And again, the kind of problems that it seems like we have with little Mogadishu is the kind of things that's going to make Americans start changing their mind about birthright citizenship. Because once we peel back the onion to show how much contempt a great deal of those people have for the United States and our way of life, it's going to spread across to all the immigrant communities, you know? And I didn't copy this down, and I wish I would have. They had a Chinese guy who was pissed at because they understood how some Asian populations, they have their enclaves, but they lay low. You know, they want to be in a symbiotic relationship with the United States. Right? Nobody's really raiding those people because there's, even though they might have spies and all that kind of shit, but the truth of the matter is there's really no trouble coming out of there. So, I just wanted to kind of piece all these things together because they're not separate. The problem with Somalia, the little Mogadishu, and the rest of the country is not separate from immigration in general. It's not separate from birthright citizenship. It's not separate from whether these people have allegiance to the United States or Somalia. And then we'll say about allegiance, right? There's enough people who think the little hats have dual allegiance, right? To Israel and to America. But here's the one thing that I don't care whether you like little hats or not. Here's the one thing that's true, that they've built tremendous organizations that millions of Americans eat from, whether they're Jewish or not. We can leave that there. You can let that ponder, right? They have organizations, big corporations or organizations that they control that millions of Americans eat from, whether they're Jewish or not. So, yeah, they might have dual allegiance, but there's some payback. There's some pay. So I don't want to get too down that rabbit hole, but it's all immigrants and all immigration and all immigrants are not created equal. Some are more beneficial to us than others. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. So with that, I want to come up with my first clip of some of the problems that we have. And of course, it's a couple of minutes. I'm going to play, then I'll probably start and stop it. But the first one I wanted to do was this one. So bear with me. Let me go ahead and get it queued up. Let me get it going. Here we go. So we're going to fix this in real time. So here we're going to go with this.
And protect her constituents. The time to act is now. Mayor Vi Lyles, a Democrat, says the city has invested heavily in increasing security on the transit system, and the police department is increasing its presence in high pedestrian traffic areas during the holidays. However,
but this is a situation with another stabbing by an illegal immigrant on a transit train. Not the guy who murdered the white girl a long time ago. I mean, a couple of months ago. But this is another stabbing of an illegal immigrant who was in police custody, but released by the mayor and her police department because they didn't want to cooperate with ICE.
the mayor says there are several aspects of public safety that are outside of the city's jurisdiction, including immigration policy and enforcement. And Dana, ICE has lodged an arrest detainer to keep Solorzano behind bars, but Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says there is no guarantee that local authorities will honor it.
So one, they haven't honored it. Two, we have another Democrat mayor. Three, let me show you the picture of her just so you guys understand what's going on here. And this is continuing to be, I'm not into the race stuff, guys, but we have to understand. Okay, Los Angeles, Karen Bass. Chicago, Brandon Johnson. New York City was Eric Adams. Charlotte, V. Lyles. New Orleans, Baltimore, Memphis. Do you guys want to know what they all have in common? Just asking. I'm just asking questions here. Do you guys want to know what they all have in common? You see, what kills me, if we want to play the race card, what kills me as a black guy in this country is that when black people get into leadership positions, particularly in these cities that have been plagued with crime, they have done nothing to save black people. In fact, they've only made it worse. And I think,
well, let that sink in, because it's true. Now, if anybody wants to dispute that, it's the blue cities with black liberal mayors who don't prioritize keeping their people safe in order to keep the narrative from the Democrat and Liberal Party going. These people are preying on their own citizens, and the immigrants are being put in those poorer neighborhoods. And these guys and these gals and these black people, coons in blackface, are the ones who are spearheading that. So he's going to go on, and they don't have to be black Americans either. But if they're liberal and by ideology, then if you're poor, your ass is grass. If you're in a poor neighborhood, they'll let you die.
this is a great time to get into the left's response, particularly Democrats. And I was just talking about mayors, right? So here's the new mayor of New York City, or I guess he's still mayor-elect, Mondani, and him giving instructions to illegal immigrants on how to evade ICE, because this represents their response to it all.
Last weekend, ICE attempted to raid Canal Street and detain our immigrant neighbors. As mayor, I'll protect the rights of every single New Yorker, and that includes the more than 3 million immigrants who call this city their home. But we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. If you encounter ICE, these are the things that every New Yorker should know. First, ICE cannot enter into private spaces like your home, school, or a private area of your workplace without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. That looks like this. If ICE does not have a judicial warrant signed by a judge, you have the right to say, I do not consent to entry, and the right to keep your door closed. Sometimes ICE will show you paperwork that looks like this and tell you that they have the right to arrest you. That is false. ICE is legally allowed to lie to you, but you have the right to remain silent. If you're being detained, you may always ask, am I free to go? Repeatedly until they answer you. You are legally allowed to film ICE as long as you do not interfere with an arrest. It is important to remain calm during any interaction with ICE or law enforcement. Do not impede their investigation, resist arrest, or run. One last thing. New Yorkers have a constitutional right to protest. And when I'm mayor, we will protect that right. New York will always welcome immigrants. And I will fight each and every day to protect, support, and celebrate our immigrant brothers and sisters.
I was about.
All right, so you notice that he said immigrants. There's a large percentage of immigrants that are not documented. So he's going to protect illegal immigrants because legal immigrants need no such protection. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? If you're a legal immigrant here, you don't have anything to fear from ICE. And this whole notion that they might detain you, well, you know what? Welcome to the goddamn party, people. The law enforcement been restraining and holding black folks forever, right? They've been, people have been detained who were innocent folks forever until they got cleared. That's what law enforcement actually does. That they have like maybe 24 hours or some shit like that. So you might be inconvenienced, but if you're legal, you don't immigrant, you don't have nothing to worry about. So that part of it is bullshit, man. So this whole notion. So to have your mayor come out and try to inform illegal immigrants how they could evade arrest from ICE is just diabolical shit. And that's another thing that Americans, especially blacks, need to understand. That if we get overrun as a country where we have no borders, no national identity anymore, and the country falls from within, because that's what big countries do, right? Big empires, they fall from within. If that happens, right? Think about it. If that happens, we don't have nowhere to retreat to. We can't go back to fucking Mogadishu. We can't go back to Africa. We don't have nowhere to go. America is our homeland, right? If you're Irish, you can go back to Irish and they'll probably have a party for you and some shit like that. But as American black people, descendants of slaves, this place is it for us. There should be no other ethnic group in this goddamn country, excuse me, Lord, that should be more protective of American borders than us as black people. I'm serious, that Western American descendants of slaves. We don't have nowhere else to go. America must succeed. It's as simple as that. We're not going to Liberia. We're not going anywhere. And so we should really be protective of who America lets into this country and whether those people pledge allegiance to our daggone flag. Just like anybody else. Like some people have forgotten, especially white women liberals. If people ain't genuflecting to the flag, they shouldn't be here. They shouldn't. So that's one of my major issues with what's going on. I think we have a major issue with that for immigration. Okay. All right. So there you have it. That's another thing. So now that brings us to there's another clip that my man has on his thing that I want to get to, and I'll get to that clip too. And we're going to show, it's a short clip, but while I'm doing clips, I might as well get to his clip there because he says something else. All right. All right. Let me put him back on the stage. All right.
We keep saying this like I'm blue in the face, of course. If they don't want ICE in the neighborhood, then make ICE go to the jails and hand them over. It's not complicated. And the person who's been saying that from the very beginning is Tom Homan himself.
New ICE raids in Minnesota, they are sparking widespread fear and uncertainty among people in the Somali community in the Twin Cities. Now, that Somali community in Minnesota is about 80,000 people. The vast majority are U.S. citizens or legal residents. So what is the reason for sending ICE there?
Well, look, we also know there's a large illegal Somali community there. There's illegal alien community, large illegal alien community there. You know, if you're a U.S. citizen, you know, you have nothing to fear. We're looking for criminal aliens. And also, if you're a resident alien, you have like a felony conviction by statute, you could be set up for deportation. So we're looking for public safety threats, national security threats, and illegal aliens. Nothing's changed, Dana, from day one.
So when you come across your friends, your family, your colleagues, people who try to argue, or at least somewhat argue that what the Trump administration is going too far, my number one question every single time is, do you think Joe Biden went too far when he allowed 20 million people to cross the border unvetted? Do you think that's going too far? You think housing illegal immigrants in luxury hotels and paying them $12,000 a month is going too far? You think allowing TDA gang members and cartel members to run rampant in sanctuary cities because the police officers not only won't arrest them, but when they do, they release them back onto the street because of cashless bail or weak policies from these judges who refuse to enforce the law? You think that's going too far? You think, even if we go away from illegal immigration, do you think arresting someone 72 times because they committed a crime 72 times is going too far?
Got an alarming new report now on sanctuary policies in the state of Illinois. Immigration and Customs Enforcement saying that Governor Pritzker has overseen the release of more than 1,700 dangerous criminal illegal aliens since the 20th of January, including murderers, pedophiles, and kidnappers, sending them back into neighborhoods and putting American lives at risk.
Again.
All right. What else needs to be said? What else? These are the sanctuary city guys.
In a neighborhood.
This sanctuary 1,700. Right? These are the people, your elected leaders, your Democratic elected leaders doing shit like this. And guess where those people go? Because they don't want to cooperate with ICE. I mean, let me just say that, again, the Republicans talk a big game now that President Trump is in there, and they're still not talking a big enough game. Pritzker, Johnson, Bass, Gavin Newsom, Mayor Wu, McFarland, the guy from Maryland, all of these guys should be under investigation for sedition, because many of these places are in open rebellion against the federal government. They're in open rebellion. They're in as much open rebellion against the federal government as the slave states were back in the day, where they started to ignore legal precedent, legal opinions, legal stuff, and said they started to try to print their own money. That was how bad they got in the Confederate States. They're not trying to do that. But guys like Pritzker, guys like Johnson, especially open and you should listen to their words in some of their speeches, and then go look up the definition of sedition. And, they should at least be under investigation. The guy from the police chief in Minneapolis actually put out a not so veiled threat that he would tell his police to fight ICE. Can you imagine the local police killing ICE or fighting a gunfight with ICE because the police chief is an asshole? Can you imagine that? Because he wants to protect his position. Anyway, thanks. Shout out for the $2 from Work Academics. Is that what 645? Yeah. All right, there you go. Shout out to BMU, the Standard. He appreciates the $2. Thanks for stopping by, even for a second. I appreciate it, and so does BMU. Again, there you go. Thank you. What's that? The Southern Breeze. I appreciate you showing. I appreciate the company. Yeah, 8 million. That's man, 8 billion. That's right. They said a number out in little Mogadishu was almost $8 billion of fraud. Right now, I can't imagine it was if it was us. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? If we wielded that much power and we actually blew it and did some crazy stuff like that, that kind of fraud, there would be hell to pay. And there should be some hell to pay for those folks out there. Matter of fact, a lot of people ain't talking about it, but there was a case where a husband and wife, Somalian husband and wife, got caught in their hands in a cookie jar for $7.5 million. The jury convicted them in an hour, and the judge overturned a unanimous jury vote. That I can't believe that, but nobody's talking about it. Mainstream media is not talking about it. And you know how rare it is for a judge to just throw out a vote, throw out it's just crazy. It's just that whole place needs to be under complete analysis. Tim Wall and his crew needs to, and the mayor, and I got more on those guys. Anyway, so I got a lot of problems with that. So now we're coming into what Somalis think about Black folks and what Somalis, and maybe, like I said, not all, but enough to make a difference. That's my new thing. When people say not all, just like I'm a baby boomer and everybody hates baby boomers. And I used to argue and complain and we're all fucked up. They never got me to believe it because I think I'm your favorite baby boomer. My family is intact. My kids are straight. We take care of everything that we take care of. All right. But there were 76 million baby boomers. So I had to concede that maybe 20% of them were effed up. And that 20% was enough to make a difference here in the future. Okay, I'll grant you that. So out of the 80,000 Somalians in Minnesota, maybe they ain't all effed up. But there's enough of them that are effed up that makes a difference, including Ilhan Omar. Okay? So that's why I'm saying don't have to be everybody. It's just enough bad apples to spoil a whole bunch. That's a saying for a reason. So here's my next little clip that I'm gonna show, and you guys let this shit sink in. Y'all let it sink in, right? let me share that one. I'm gonna share that one. And this guy is one of their leaders. It's a short clip, so I'm gonna just play it.
They don't even know their fathers. They don't even know their fathers. It was all of them, most of them were the product of one night stand. One night stand. They will tell you, I don't know my father. Well, who named you? Whose name are you carrying? When my mother chose his name for me.
Somali this, Somali that. Shut up, Naya. Shut up. Ohio was promised to us 3,000 years ago. And there's nothing you can do to change that, baby. I'm sorry.
Somali. They don't even know their fathers. They don't even know their fathers. It was all of them, most of them were the product of one night stand. One night stand. They will tell you, I don't know my father. Well, who named you? Whose name are you carrying? When my mother chose his name for me.
Somali this, Somali that. Shut up, Naya. Shut up. Ohio was promised to us 3,000 years ago. And there's
Oh man, you know what I'm saying? There you go. This is what we're dealing with. Now, that kind of arrogance, what does that kind of arrogance breed? You know what I'm saying? What does that breed? It breeds contempt. It sure does. So, and I don't know where they get this 3,000 years ago thing, but we're talking about zealots. We're talking about people who are into zealotry. right? So all you need is an imam like that dude with a masjid full of men, and he's preaching that probably what every time he gets a chance on how much better they are than Black Americans. So he's not only coming here to step on the American way of life. This guy is here talking about how much better they are than us as descendants of slaves here in America. The folks who probably paved the way for a lot of people to enjoy the life they enjoy today. You know, so I tell you what, listen, these guys opened up such a can of worms for themselves that, and of course, you know, Trump doesn't let go, and he's in open warfare with Ilhan Omar, and she is, you know, I never, you know, even before all this, I used to hear her speak and just feel her contempt for the United States of America. And even though she would say, you know, how much she despises white men and they're the number one threat to America than anybody else, you know, I mean, it's not like I have any love for the white guys, but, you know, you're here in their country. You're here at the behest of white people. You know what I'm saying? And she's talking like this. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute, man. You know, where's your allegiance at, Ilhan? Okay, so here's what we have to cover. And I'll take my time with this one. And because I got a little bit of time left here. You know, here's what we have to cover. There's three major things that they've done in terms of stealing money from America and from the people. And they say the taxpayer of the Minnesota. That's not entirely true. It's money that was earmarked for Minnesotans, but that money comes down from the feds through the state. And that's why the feds weren't on top of it, because they trust the states to do the right thing with the stipends of money that go down to the states. And so when you have crooked politicians or politicians who've been compromised for votes, this is why the Somalis were able to perpetrate such a scam across three major areas, right? Food, homelessness, and God forbid, using the children for autism, okay? And we're going to go through that, and I want y'all to see from a senator who's talking about that. And we'll just go ahead and play it through. Some of it is a few minutes long, but it's better coming from somebody who knows than just me. All right, so here we go. Let me stop it there, and I'm going to share it. I want the timestamps exactly so we don't have to waste too much time leading up to the timestamps. All right, okay. Let me share it. And we'll be on this one for a little while, so it should be straightforward.
Denigrate the Somali people or people of Somali ancestry just because of the actions of a few. But it is a fact that this $1 billion in welfare fraud occurred almost exclusively in the Somali community in Minnesota and was orchestrated by people with Somali ancestry. That's a fact. Facts aren't racist. Facts are facts. So far, 59 people have been convicted, 86 have been charged, and 78 of them are of Somali ancestry. That's just a fact. Now, what these criminals did they had three very elaborate schemes. The first scheme was centered on supposedly feeding hungry children in the Somali community. A group, a nonprofit run by some people with Somali ancestry. The name of the nonprofit was called Feeding Our Future. Feeding Our Future. Feeding Our Future went to the welfare authorities in the state of Minnesota, which of course was administering federal taxpayer money, and they said, "Look, feeding our children said, Feeding Our Future said, we want to feed hungry children in the Somali community." And the welfare people in state government in Minnesota gave them the money to do that. It started out very small. But the idea was that Feeding the Future, the Somali nonprofit organization, would take this federal taxpayer money, American taxpayer money, and go to businesses, most of which were Somali businesses in the Somali community, and set up feeding sites where they supposedly would take children to get a hot meal. On paper, it sounded great. As I say, it started out very, very small, just a few $1 million. But eventually, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And more businesses in the Somali community signed up to be feeding sites. And Feeding Our Future, the Somali nonprofit, kept going back to the Social Services Department in Minnesota saying, we need more money, we need more money. And at the height of the fraud, they were spending about $100 million a year. Not over the lifetime of the program, $100 million a year. There's just one problem. There were no hungry children. There were hungry children. They just weren't getting any of the money. And the businesses, many of which were Somali owned, which were getting some money to feed the children from Feeding Our Future, the nonprofit that was quarterbacking this whole thing, they weren't giving any of the money to hungry children. They were spending it. These businesses were spending it on yachts and vacations and jewelry and furniture for their home. That was scheme number one. But it got worse. The second scheme was supposedly to help people who are homeless. Remember, I said in America, when you're homeless, we'll house you. Well, that's what they were trying to do in Minnesota. A nonprofit was set up, again run by someone of Somali ancestry, and this nonprofit went to a bunch of providers who supposedly were going to provide housing. And they told the welfare authorities in Minnesota that they needed millions of dollars to house people who were homeless. And once again, the program started out small. When they started it in 2020, these crooks started it in 2020. They said, we only need $2.6 million. But then in 2021, they said, we need $21 million. And in the following years, they said we need $42 million the next year, then $74 million to feed, or rather to house the homeless, then $104 million a year, not the total scheme, a year. There's just one problem. None of the money was going for housing. None of the money was going to help people who were homeless. These providers and this nonprofit that was coordinating it just put the money in their pocket. But there's more. They came up with a third scheme. This one is this this one makes you want to throw up in a potted plant. This one's centered around autistic children. Once again, in this third program, a group of providers, supposedly medical providers, got together and they went to the welfare authorities in Minnesota and said, we need money to help autistic children.
You know, I'm an asshole. I did have the mic muted. Thanks for telling me that. I'm a dummy. Anyway, I was just saying, you know what, when you're to be fair kind of thing, we was talking about homelessness, and I was saying that all the homeless programs across the United States are failures. I mean, even though these guys have created money for that, all the homeless programs across the United States are a big failing grade. So, but that doesn't absolve these guys from this crime. But let's go ahead and finish. And I appreciate you telling me that I was stupid. I hit this thing because I was coughing. I forgot to unmute it. I mean, yeah.
You say, well, that's a wonderful thing to do. And then these providers, once the welfare department at the state government in Minnesota gave them the okay, they went out and started recruiting autistic children. You say, well, okay, we have to get the word out somehow. But they couldn't find very many autistic children. So they started going to parents in the Somali community and saying, can we call your child autistic? can we certify that your child is autistic? If you'll let us do that, we'll pay you a bribe. Anywhere from $400 to $1,500 a child. Now, once again, the program, it didn't start big. These were sophisticated crooks. And its leader was a woman by the name of Asha Farban Hassan. She was also in, by the way, on the feeding of the children scam as well. And as best we can tell, they approach parents only in the Somali community. Once again, they couldn't find enough autistic children, so they bribed the many parents in the community, gave them money to certify that their children were autistic. In the first year, they were clever. They only asked for $3 million. The second year, in 2019, they asked for $54 million. Then in 2020, they went up to $77 million. And then in 2021, they really got greedy. They went to $183 million. And in 22, $280 million. And in 2023, $400 million. All total, in these three fraud schemes, these crooks stole $1 billion of taxpayer money.
Well, you know what? Before he goes on, I just need to stop it every so often, right? How many children do you think that they had to manufacture to generate $400 million of fraud, right? And then giving kickback, getting that money from the government, giving kickback to the parents. So when they say, right, only 80 people were involved, the parents of those children who collected those monies are also guilty, right? If I steal something and I sell it to you and you buy a stolen product, I can go to jail for stealing and you can go to jail for buying a stolen product, provided you knew it was stolen. And even if you didn't know it was stolen, you still might have to kind of prove your innocence that you've just been duped, right? So all of those people who so-called parents who added up their children and sold their children to these crooks for, I don't know, $1,000 a head, you know, and then started to vie against these cheaters for different corporations who might, NGOs who might be offering a little bit more. Those people are guilty too. Those people are guilty too. So it's not just a few Somalis. You know, so out of the 80,000, and the fact is a lot of them do have a lot of children or enough children because they're still breeding, unlike Americans, right? So it's a lot of them who are complicit. Now, I don't think they're going to start rounding up these parents. They should, but I don't know if it's going to get that deep because the political resolve in doing so is probably not there. But there's a lot of guilty Somalians in this scheme. A lot.
I started to say worst part, but let me amend it. Equally bad part. You say, well, hello, how could this happen? Why didn't the people in the Department of Social Services and the Welfare Department in state government, when they saw these claims arising, why didn't they say something? Didn't they go out and check these businesses that were supposedly sites to feed homeless children? Didn't they go talk to some of the children and their parents to see if some of the children really were autistic? Didn't the state authorities go out and say, can you show us one of the homes that you're providing to the homeless people? After all, we're spending $1 billion. They didn't. Because the politicians wouldn't let them. And the crooks who were setting all this up, they're pretty smart. I'll give you one example. Remember, I talked about the nonprofit involved in feeding the so-called hungry children, called Feeding the Future. The rank and file employees in the welfare office started getting suspicious when the claims went up, and they contacted Feeding Our Future. And they said, hey, what's going on here? You know, we're going to start cutting off these claims because it's getting a little bit expensive. And you know what Feeding Our Future did? They threatened the employees. They said, if you cut off our money, they sent them an email, and they did it by phone. They told the state agency that failing to promptly approve new applicants from minority-owned businesses would result in a lawsuit, feeding accusations of racism that would be scrawled across the news.
Right, so let me stop it there because we know where he's going. There's a couple of things that I didn't put in here. One, there was an audio tape of the, I guess, is the Attorney General Ellison, whatever I think he is, the top cop. He was audio taped, making a deal with a room full of Somalis that if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Right. And I was going through so many things. I forgot to put that here. So one, he's complicit in some way. Allegedly, he might know something, and he should probably be under investigation. Then, of course, is the mayor, right? Who has his hands in some of these other organizations. I don't know. I think whether DHS works for him or works for the governor. Well, it probably worked for the governor. But the police chief works for the mayor. The mayor is so compromised that he's a useful idiot. That's how compromised this mayor is. So instead of elevating the Somali population to become Americanized, in order to stay mayor, he did a couple things. One, he learned Somali, right? And every so often he tries to go ahead with his broken Somali, and he tries to talk to the Somalians. Okay, he's talking to Somali. He's over here talking to Somalians, right? And I can listen. You got to bear with me for a second because I have a sense of humor, right? So he's butchering the hell out of the language, and I'm not even Somali, and I know he's butchering the shit out of it. I could see the Somalians listening to this useful idiot trying to speak Somali in his white man tone, and they're probably having belly laughs every time he tries to do it, saying, look at this idiot. And I wish, I don't know what it is, but I know the Somalis have a racial slur for Americans, right? Because just like humans, we have racial slurs for everything. I wonder what they call white Americans in racially charged Somalia, right? That's what they're probably calling this guy behind his back, as opposed to something that's equivalent or worse than him being a useful idiot. The mayor of Minneapolis is a useful idiot, and he might not even be that useful. All right. So one of the things we do know is that he exploited the clan rivalries against the Ilian Omar clans of Somalia and another clan of Somalia, and he split their votes. And that's why he beat Omar Fatah. Because if they didn't split because Fatah is on the Ilian Omar side, and they're having a tribal warfare in little Mogadishu right there in Minneapolis. Right there in Minneapolis. And he split the vote. That's why he won. You know, but he's such a blazing liberal idiot. He can't see that America is slipping right after him. Because if Fatah wins the next mayoral election in Minnesota, there's going to be like a mini coup of a pocket of Somalia in complete control of Minneapolis, what once used to be a great American city of 1,000 lakes. They came from one mayor away from taking that whole place over. And would any of this shit have come out? Absolutely not. Right? And then, of course, we can't talk about the idiot governor who almost became, who could have become the vice president, one heartbeat away from the presidency. And this guy's a complete idiot. Right? I mean, could you listen? Whatever, I don't know how he got elected. I don't know what kind of people up there in Minnesota they have that could look at that man and say, yes, I want him to lead us. You know, and he was the one who threatened a lot of these whistleblowers, right? And the whistleblowers are coming out now. This thing is bigger than this thing up there in Minneapolis with the Somalis is bigger than anybody wants to admit right now, because the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it. And Trump has had enough. So yeah, they can't, here's another thing. You got to stop talking about deporting Ilhan Omar. They can't deport her. However, they could kick her ass out of Congress. And that's exactly what they need to do. Kick her ass out of Congress. So I got a couple more clips since I got a few more minutes to go. And these are shorter clips anyway. So we know what this guy is talking about. And I appreciate that. He was pretty good. Here's my other clip that I want to show. And, you know, like I said, this is now we're talking about Ilhan Omar. Okay. We finally get to the lady who's the face of the Somali population up in Minnesota, right? She's the face. Okay. And let me go ahead and get to her, at least what people think about her. All right. I have a couple of clips here. One. No, where's that? That's not it. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Let me share this one. So they're having trouble playing this video. Let me see.
Keep screaming this from every mountaintop I can. That's Hassan Ali, and this is Ilhan Omar. We know who Ilhan Omar. Hassan is the president or prime minister of Somalia. They had a roundtable meeting.
I'm sorry.
Africans talking about getting in.
You might have to turn up your volume.
Understanding that they are 100% Somalian and they will never change. Now, in this clip that I'm about to show, Mr. Ali, Hassan Ali, is talking, and he's letting it be known that Ilhan Omar is there to take a Black American seat in Congress.
It is very important in Somali Somalia are exceeding society.
You're not going to be able to read that, but
they are not here to be our friends. They are not here to fight for all Black people. They are here to fight for Somalians. That's it. Those are not my words. It's their words. It's their actions, right? So before y'all jump on here, look, just another jealous Black American. I'm not jealous of anything. We can't be beat. We're undefeated here. That's something y'all forgot. Mind you, this shit was on camera. So I want to know what y'all got to say about that. I already know that Black Americans have no allies at all. We don't have friends here. We don't have allies here, especially Africans. It's sad, but it's true. And it's not coming from us. It's coming from you guys, because you guys come over here to this country, automatically look at us as enemy number one. Then you get caught on camera doing this kind of shit. It's absolutely crazy, but I love when people show their true colors. Please tell me who you are so I can believe you the first time.
All right. So there's no lie there, right? Absolutely no lie there. So I got another clip about Ilhan Omar. She's on Face the Nation, and she's doing a conversation with a lady, and she's got to be somewhat truthful. But I want to say a couple of things about her when we get there. This is one of my last clips. Next to the last. All right. Let me see. Let's get to it. Ilhan Omar. All right. All right. All right. Let me make sure I share it.
In this broad, brazen scheme to rip off the Minnesota state welfare system. Do you want to respond to that? Do you know what he is referring to?
I really don't, and I don't think the secretary himself understands what he's referring to.
Let me stop. Let me start a little bit back.
Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. I'm just saying, it just is what it is. Tell me I'm wrong. What am I wrong about? Anton, can we? Let me see something. I heard that Ilhan Omar is out in these streets talking big shit. Yeah, I heard she was on Face the Nation.
And we're joined now by Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Margaret.
We have a lot to get to with you, but I want to pick up on where the Treasury Secretary just left off. He alleged that people who were tied to you or your campaign.
The Treasury Secretary is Bessent. He's also the IRS guy. And he came on Face the Nation right before Ilhan Omar. And he said a lot of things, and that's what she's asking now. But so let's go from there. I just wanted to give you some backdrop.
Were involved in this broad, brazen scheme to rip off the Minnesota state welfare system. Do you want to respond to that? Do you know what he is referring to?
I really don't, and I don't think the secretary himself understands what he's referring to.
So let me stop it for a second. Let me just paint a little picture, right? Because when Ilhan Omar first came out, and maybe this is a man thing, and until I started to hear her speak, there's something about the lady that's a little regal, right? She's a petite woman. She's pretty. She's refined. And you I don't know, it's a man in me. You give deference to pretty privilege as a man. A lot of us do. But once she started talking about her views on the United States and how she feels about this country, then she started to look like, just it all just went away. She spits venom when she talks, right? She really does. And I just think this, especially when she talks in her own language about this country and who she's who her allegiance is to, she makes it really, really clear. You can go on your own self and go back and listen to some of her, and make sure you have the translation on to some of her speeches. This lady hates the United States, and she hates the way we're governed, and she loathes, and maybe we don't care about this, but she loathes white men until she married one. And I can't imagine what kind of simp that guy is, okay? Anyway, so without further ado, let Ilhan gaslight the rest of America about what's going on up there in little Mogadishu.
We obviously had people who were able to donate to our campaign that were involved. We sent that money back a couple years ago. And actually, I was one of the first members of Congress to send a letter to the Secretary of Eg asking them to look into what I thought was a reprehensible fraud that was occurring within the program.
So this was, just for our audience, the Biden-era Justice Department called it the largest COVID fraud scheme in the country. And this was pocketing COVID-era welfare funds, more than $1 billion in taxpayer money that was stolen. It was pretty shocking. Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
That's such bullshit. The reason why it's such bullshit is that they're upset because they're not only perpetrating the crime, there are people up there benefiting from it, right? I mean, they're sharing that money with their constituent, with their whoever is involved, especially the autism scheme. So she just gets like, well, we care about it. You guys wouldn't have mentioned none of this shit unless the lid got blown off of it. And now they're circling the wagons.
So
wait. You're upset about the fraud that has occurred. You're saying that they could have benefited if the fraud didn't occur. You basically just finessed, and the majority of the people that got the finesse on were Somalis. 90-something percent, 98% of everybody that was participating in it were Somalis.
So she's so funny.
And so now you want to spend, and see, this is why you have to be very, very careful of who you elect, who you allow to have power, and who you allow to finesse you. She's sitting there gaslighting us. And instead of holding them accountable, instead of saying, listen, we have to be more vigilant, we have to be on top of this. I don't know how this got by us. This is not a representation. This is this and that. And we need to apologize, and we need to acknowledge that American taxpayers deserve better. And anybody that did this or were a part of this should be deported. And anybody that's tied to them need to be deported. She didn't say any of that. She said, we're disappointed also.
She's so full of shit, man.
So y'all stole over $1 billion. Y'all stole over $1 billion. And there's no accountability whatsoever. Got it.
Do you think, though, that there was a failure by the Democratic state government to police itself? This is a brazen, fraudulent activity here.
Yeah, and that is what I alluded to in my letter that I'd sent to the Secretary of Eg, was to see where things were going wrong. How can this amount of money disappear fraudulently without there being alarms being set off?
I wonder how much.
And it is something that, we have to continue to investigate. We have to continue to ask those questions.
Because, as you know, one of the initial defenses by the organization at the heart of the fraud, Feeding Our Future, was to claim the probe was due to racism. Do you think that this was all about negligence, or that it was like political fear of alienating the Somali community?
So you have to remember that the woman who led the program is a Caucasian woman. And that was her way of making sure that this would continue to happen by using whatever rhetoric that was available to her. We do know that when the money was stopped, they did sue. The AG, Attorney General Keith Ellison, defended the department in that lawsuit. It was a judge that said it should continue, that money should continue to go out. And so this wasn't something that people were not looking at. There was always those alarms, and we will continue to understand where things might have gone wrong as these investigations continue and as these fraudsters.
Wait a minute. But she said that they stopped the fraudulent money. They went to court and a judge said continue to spend fraudulent money to nowhere, a bridge to nowhere. If they, so what kind of defense did the AG bring to court? Hey, listen, nobody's being fed. We don't have any, the money is just going nowhere. We don't have no people actually getting food product. Right? So what did he do, man? Like I said, they have the AG on videotape somewhere, and I should have had it for this thing, with a room full of Somalis talking essentially, you scratch my back, I'm paraphrasing, I'll scratch yours. I mean, this whole shit should be blown way out, and some of these high-priced guys should be doing perk walks. So she's gaslighting again with this thing. I mean, maybe she's right with the outcome, but if the judge says continue the money, are we saying that there was no fraud there?
Are prosecuted and sent to jail.
Well, it's going to have impact for your community because we've already heard that the head of Medicare and Medicaid say they're going to have a new policy that applies to Minnesota. You heard the Treasury Secretary say they're investigating. But there's another thread here because House Republicans and the Treasury Secretary just now talked about a link to terrorism, a possible link. He said they're just now beginning to look into it. How confident are you that that's a false claim?
I'm pretty confident at the moment because there are people who have been prosecuted and who have been sentenced. If there was a linkage in that the money that they had stolen going to terrorism, then that is a failure of the FBI and our.
Wait a minute. Let me replay this one more time. Give me a second.
If there was a linkage in that the money that they had stolen going to terrorism, then that is a failure of the FBI and our courts.
So wait. If your people steal, if Somalis in Minneapolis, who you represent, steal, it is a failure of the FBI to what? Catch them sooner? Or be proactive in being able to catch them? It's the FBI's fault that your people would steal and then send the money back, and then they're actually being a help or a funding of terrorism back in Somalia, which is considered a level 4, no travel. We not even sending no planes there. And y'all don't have any kind of structure or government or any of that type of stuff. But it is the FBI's fault that Somalis in Minneapolis would steal and then send the money back home in a fraud scheme.
No, you know what? I hear what he's saying, but I don't, it's funny. I don't disagree with some of the things because the FBI wasn't watching. If money from the United States is going back to Somalia, and once everybody finds out, we know that the terrorist group over there takes a piece of everything that's coming in. And if anybody's going to uncover that or has the reach to do something about that, it would be the FBI, right? So that's why she was so easily to say the FBI. They're not at fault, but they may be a little slow in not catching it because they're looking at all kinds of things. They probably didn't expect this kind of scandal to blow up. They probably didn't know about the scandal because they know about until recently. So once they know money's going back to Mogadishu and those crooks over there in Somalia, they have to know that the terrorist group is somehow going to get a piece of that action. So the FBI is on it now, but she's trying to push that shit off on them, as opposed to the fact that their people are actually purposely sending money back, knowing that the terrorist group will get some of it. Maybe not all of it, but they're going to get some of it. So
how are these people governors, bro? How are these people senators? How are these people House of Representatives? How are these people mayors? How are these people? And then they had one that was running for mayor in Minneapolis.
That's right.
System in that.
And we heard enough of her because I'm gonna move on. Listen, the point really is that I said it already. That guy Omar Fatah would have won if the mayor, the current mayor, didn't know how to use tribal warfare against him, where one clan of Somalis hates the other clan, and they brought that tribal warfare to the polls. And so he split the vote, and that's why he beat Omar Fatah by the margin that he beat him by. It was kind of slim, you know? So, I mean, it's just dirt all the way around, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, we all right, so what do you got to say? There's no money going to terrorism, just good old-fashioned American fraud. I don't know if it's fraud. Listen. You know, it says if there's fraud, right, and money going anywhere, how do we know where it's going or we're not going? So if I can't make a claim that it's going to terrorists, we can't make a claim that we know where it's going, right? So once the money leaves America and it goes back to Somalia, because we do know money's going back to Somalia, even if it's not fraud, they send money back home all the time. Immigrants do that everywhere. This is not just germane to Somalians. So I'm just saying, you know, and this. So wait a minute. So what? Voting? No. Nobody's saying that she's guilty of it. I know she shouldn't be. Inside the halls of governance. She should not be a congresswoman. But nobody says that she, Ilhan Omar, is guilty of the fraud. I didn't say that. We didn't talk about that tonight. But she is covering for her people, which most probably people will. So I did have a couple of other questions before we leave tonight, just in general conversations. You know, as you know, Americans descendant of slaves, you know, I think we need to pick a side. You know, I think that unfettered immigration hurts Black people, American, ADOS people more than anybody else, because that's where they put them. Whatever tax dollars in your sanctuary city that's left, they take that money and they give it to illegal aliens. They give it to illegal aliens, they give it to illegal aliens, and gives them a leg up over you. Like if you had a rec center that you was trying to get funded, they wouldn't give it to you. But if the illegal aliens need that, they'll give them a space and they'll fund it. They did that in Chicago. They're doing that everywhere where there is illegal and legal immigration, right? Where they're trying to get people papers because the Democrats are looking for a new voting bloc, right? They can no longer depend on Black women and the sycophantic Black men who follow them to vote for them, because in the Trump election, if 100% of all the Blacks who voted for Kamala Harris, she still would have lost. She would have won one state. So they need a new voting bloc. So they're willing to fund and destroy America by flooding us with a whole bunch of people and spending welfare money on them. Because we do know that once you feed the dragon, you feed people money, they're going to be beholden to you, because they proved that with the Black community. They already did. Right? So they know that shit works. And so they're trying to build up a new block so they can get the votes they need in these states. And that's why they're doing it in the sanctuary states. Gives them more votes, gives them more seats, it gives them all kinds of shit. And all the stupid things, here's what Republicans made us say. Illegal immigrants should have never been part of the census. That's another thing. There's a lot of stupid shit that the Republicans let happen. And the biggest thing they did was not fight against the Declaration of Sanctuary States. That was a big, big, big problem. It's stupid. You know, it's stupid. You know what? Americans pay billions and trillions of dollars worth of taxes, and it still ain't enough. It still ain't enough. You know, and it's not just Somalis. This is just bigger than Somalis. They just happen to get caught with their hands in a cookie jar. We can't afford to pay for illegal immigrants. And that's and we don't have to deport all the Somalis. We just don't need to let any more in. And I don't want to deport all of them. If you're here, you're here. You know, I think it's a waste of time talking about deporting them. That's why when I hear people talk about let's deport Ilhan Omar, I think that's stupid. But if they start talking about let's kick her ass out of Congress, I'm all for it because she's an enemy from within. If you understand anything about the United States, when we take an oath of office, whether you're a civilian or a military or a legislative branch, any government program, you take an oath of office. And one of the lines in there is that we're going to protect America from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Ilhan Omar, as far as I'm concerned, is a domestic enemy to the United States. And you don't have to take my word for it. You could just listen to her speak. And she'll say it, especially when she's speaking in her home tongue. You know? I don't know how old you are. So, listen, racism is like white noise now. Because that's not what separates us from white people or anybody else. We have a class war going on. Right? This whole notion that white people are holding black folks back is just crazy talk. We have so many successful black people. It's just, we shouldn't be talking about that bullshit anymore. Does racism still exist? Yeah, but it leaks like a sieve. We got so many successful black people in this country. We got to stop wearing that shit around our neck like an albatross. You know what I'm saying? We got to, especially black women, y'all got to get the hell off the goddamn plantation. The 92% that voted for Kamala Harris because all of a sudden she decided she wanted to be black. I mean, come on. Let's get that shit, let's kind of give our heads a shake. We need to all get off the plantation. You don't have to become a Republican. You don't have to become a conservative. We just don't need to be giving out votes willy-nilly to anybody. And just like, I don't know if you were here before, sister, what's that, what, LB thing, stuff more, I don't know. I can't read. Anyway, listen, whatever rich white men or rich white women or anything else, listen, racism is an equal opportunity kind of thing, right? White Democrats, white liberals, white conservatives, they all are in their own little bubble. But we can no longer, as black people, just sit on the sidelines thinking that the white man is holding us down. Unless you could tell me what they're holding you down from, most black people have not been racially profiled or had any racism overt to them in their whole lifetime. There's a lot of black people who have never been called the N-word, not to their face. I mean, but if you want to come up and talk about it, maybe you could teach me something if that's what you want to do. You don't have to, but the system is broken. I could tell you that. There's some racial elements to it, of course, but that's not stopping us from succeeding. It's not any longer. Really. I think the way we think is more detrimental to us as black people than white people. I really do. We got to stop thinking that we're victims of anything. As American descendants of slaves, we have done some tremendous strides here in this country, regardless of white people. No, I'm getting ready to get out of here, but you know what? I appreciate you stopping by. As educated I am, I'm trying to put all your name together. I see the LP thing stuff more 950. It has to roll off my tongue. I'll have to get you up here. Listen, I'm here every Monday at 7 o'clock. I have different topics, But feel free to stop by anytime you get, at 7 Eastern. I talk about some fun things. This one was a little bit more, heated because I think immigration, both legal and illegal immigration, is something that we have to deal with as Black people. We have to deal with that as Black folks. Because if this country, I think if we have unfettered immigration that we had during the Biden administration, this country will implode from inside. Because there'll be no national pride about anything. We'll just have a whole bunch of silos of people just doing their own thing. And that's not America. Nobody pledging allegiance to the flag. And I'm saying that metaphorically. We have to have people who have allegiance to this particular country for us to survive. And as Black folks here, Black Americans who are indigenous to this country now, since we are born here as slaves, we don't have nowhere else to go. An Irishman could go back to Ireland. The Somalis could go back to Somalia. We don't have anywhere to go. This is our country, and we need to fight for it. Anyway, so that's it. And, have a good class with your student. Teach them well. Stop telling them the world is so racist that they can't get ahead, because I don't know you're saying that. But racism is not our biggest problem anymore. I don't believe that. Not that it doesn't exist. It exists. But it's not our biggest issue anymore. I think we've conquered that. We're still here. Under the most impressive white regimes, we're still here. And many of us are thriving. So I don't know. Anyway, folks, I appreciate you stopping by, listening to me rattle off at the jibs for almost 2 hours, which is crazy to me. And so I'll kind of thank you. And I was going to play it, but I'm not. Remember, listen, we are striving to be free. We're no longer trapped on the plantation. We could decide to get off, and we could live our life, and we could go get our own freedom. We don't have to follow anybody's edicts. The past is the past. We should be informed by it, but it should not be around our necks like an albatross. And so what's in front of us now is how we play out in this world of fixing immigration. Remember now, birthright citizenship was meant for us, the 14th Amendment, not the rest of the world. It's ours. So anyway, with that, thanks for stopping by, everybody, keeping me company. And I appreciate it all. And I'm going back to it. So everybody knows who you are. Come back Mondays, every Monday at 7 o'clock. I have different topics. I appreciate it. Maybe once in a while, you guys might want to come up. So with that, I'm going to say good night. Happy Monday, and I'm going to go watch some football.